Hello, everyone. This is a story about transitions. We're interviewing Mana Youngbear and Anandha Ray about the film they made about Mana's upcoming transition as she's dealing with cancer right now. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and many blessings for all those who need it.
Okay, I'm a little shaky this morning. It's been the past couple of days. The body's going, what the heck, So I'm doing okay. It's really great that you're doing this for Ananda. I can't really take a whole lot of credit for this because it was like in the interview. The image that came to mind with one of your questions was, how it's like having Frida Kahlo ask you to help her paint a portrait, So
Right.
Yeah. So.
But you know what? You're here, and that's the whole big thing that I want to talk about is this story that you're creating, this narrative, because there is so much. There are so many people right now who can't even talk about death.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
even though we've been 2 years with COVID right now, we've all lost someone that we know.
Right.
It's still almost a taboo subject.
Right. Yeah, my kids have a hard time talking to me about it. And there's things that I really want to discuss with them. And it's really emotional and it's really hard. They're grown men, but it's their mama and it's hard for them. And that's probably the hardest thing for me is to kind of midwife their way through it too, because I feel like I have an opportunity to experience probably the highest part of my life by being conscious, which I'm choosing to be conscious if I can, for my death experience. And, there's things that I want to set up, and they kind of think it's really morbid, but,
that's what we're doing right now is we're dealing with the society that very much is into the sanitation of life. It's like, oh, don't talk about death. Don't talk about death. Oh, she's dead. What happened? And it really is that kind of, if you deal with someone who's dying right now, just for example, us here, we dealt with Bill.
Uh-huh.
That was a very quick process. I mean, it was very, very quick how Bill went down in about a week and a half. And at the end of it, we're given a box with his actions, and it's this very sanitized version, and it doesn't allow any room for grief. And it doesn't allow people, his son got here too late. We were saying, get here, get here, get here. His son got here 3 days after he passed.
That's what I have in my directive. I have that I want to be laid in state in my living room for 4 days. That gives my kids that can't get to me an opportunity to have some closure if they want to. We did that with Bee's mom, and it was really good. It was really healing.
Well, that's why the Irish wake, where you all gather literally around the body in a sense and celebrate them, is such a beautiful thing because you get to celebrate their life and you get to remember them on a high.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Or low.
Right. However, that, you at least get to be with other people and you're not alone. It's not the sanitized version of stuff,
Technology. I don't know how you do it, dude.
There's so many distractions right now. And what's really funny is, you go through all this thing to get a hold of someone. And at the end of the day, if they don't want to get held of, if they don't want to be contacted, if they don't want to deal with stuff, it doesn't matter if you send them an email, a text, or whatever. They're just going to ignore you.
How are you feeling?
It's been hard right now because there's been so many passages right now with Bill and then Phoenixa. And, not even too long ago with Celestine, so it's been definitely, and I'm still, I'm still kind of reeling from what happened last week in my own personal life with the shooting. And
yeah.
We live in a weird world right now.
We live in a world this is how I look at it. I feel like we live in a world that is so potent and so open, like a child. We have to nurture that portal. If a child walked into a right, like a right to Bridget or a right to light or something, they'd be wide open for going up, you know. And right now we're doing this. Our world is doing this right now. As practitioners of the light and the love and the children of the Great Mother, we have the tools with our intention to continue, not as Pollyanna. I mean, we still have our grief and everything, but we have the tools to go, no, I'm not going down. I mean, I'm going up, you know? So that's what I tell my kids when they say, "Oh, the world's so fucked up." I'm like, "Yeah, well, you know what? You're a co-creator, so if that's how you feel about it, that's where it's going to be. Otherwise, you can use your person intent. You can sing your gratitude song. My kids, and I used to sing a gratitude song every morning and every evening before we went to bed.
What is the gratitude song?
It's just a song that Brooke Medicine Eagle put together, and a lot of people kind of poo-poo Brooke Medicine Eagle, but I like her. She and I corresponded for a while. She's a Matisse that lives in Montana, I think, and it says, "Thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for this day. This healing, healing, healing day." And we go around the circle, and everybody gets to say something like, "Thank you for my children, Lord. Thank you for my children." And then it goes, "This healing, healing, healing day," or "For my children, my children." So with 5 kids, that was kind of a long song in the morning and at night. But we did a lot of singing. We used to sing when the kids would get finished eating in the morning. Well, just their meal. We'd sing for "He's a Jolly Good Fellow" as they walked to the sink and washed their dishes and put them in the dish rack. So there was a lot of singing in my kids' lives, you know, when they were growing up, and there was a lot of singing when I was growing up, you know, and singing is an act of prayer. So
I kind of love that, how you talk about and starting the day and ending the day, these transitional periods with giving thanks, with being there and really acknowledging what's speaking to your heart.
well, you know, most indigenous people throughout the globe would get up and sing the sun up and then meet and sing the sun down at the council fire. It was something it was just done. There was no, it was just like going to the bathroom or something. You know, they just did it. I think there's a lot of power in that. Davina Shapori had a meeting back in the late 80s, early 90s, and this rabbi, Kathy, came. I don't know if you ever met her. And she was talking way back then about climate change, because people have forgotten themselves. They've forgotten their connection with the divine, and they've forgotten to sing their songs. My adopted grandfather, chief of the Klamath tribe, he said the same thing. He said the problem with the people today is they forgot to sing. They've forgotten their songs. That could be, you know, Hindu songs, that could be ISIS songs, that could be American songs, Native songs. It doesn't matter. It's songs. Carolyn Lucento used to open up her living room. She's another priestess of Isis, every Friday. And all these people would come and we do a hootenanny, and I'd always kind of sit there, you know, because I was shy to sing in front of all these people, which is very different from singing in the temple. And she says to me in her Memphis accent, she's Cherokee too. She says, "Girl, you got a heart, you got lungs, you can sing." So I always tell people that story.
It's a great story. I mean, that's the whole thing, you know, it's about awakening yourself and closing yourself with gratitude and just being aware of the fragility of existence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's talk about vulnerability, okay? Let's
Yeah.
talk about that for a minute. um, this whole experience that we're talking about is about transitions. It's
Yeah.
about transitions. And, even in our conversation right now, as we're talking about, literally transitions of like birth at the morning, being alive at noon and then death at night. It's
Yeah.
Rick, what is it about transitions that speaks to you?
I've come quite a ways in my journey, particularly through this recent cancer journey. And I now have two kinds of cancer, not just one kind of cancer. Um, there's kind of a textbook where you go through these different phases of shock, anger, disbelief, acceptance, anger, disbelief. But I'm just super grateful for all the training that I've had and the way I was brought up. I mean, transitions are an opportunity to stretch ourselves and uh, to be honest with ourselves and check in with myself. I'm just going to say about me and check in with myself. And am I really, truly feeling okay with this? I think because I'm so weak and don't have a lot of a threshold anymore, I don't care about my vulnerability. It's just there. Take it or leave it. You know what I mean? I'm not so worried about upsetting someone or disappointing someone. Really, at first I thought maybe with my kids that was a big thing, but this gives my kids an opportunity to stretch and grow too, particularly the more honest I am about my awareness of my mortality. I just hope I don't disappoint people and not die right away.
However you come, Mana, people just love being around you. They love that laughter that you have. Even when you're in pain, you're smiling when you're laughing. I remember when I came to visit you last year, actually, and
Yeah.
I was before you. We were just sitting down, and the cats came over and said hello. And even though you're clearly exhausted, you're clearly in pain, you're still laughing, you're still smiling.
Yeah, that's the power of a point of view. When you lose control of your faculties, like I have, I'm incontinent and I'm watching my body kind of slowly decay, but I still have control over how I choose to view it. And one of my teachers says sometimes we have to practice happiness. It's not about faking it, it's about practicing it. The mind is a muscle. So, my mother said, we become what we choose to believe. And I think that's really true. So, rather than, I'm catching myself now, rather than going straight to body shaming or oh my god, I got to get my burial fund together, or what am I going to do with all this junk? I don't want to put this all on my kids. I go, wait a minute, you need to take a breath, because we're so programmed to just jump into a not even fully into an emotion. We just jump into anger and then we jump out. We jump into despair and we jump out. We jump into grief and it's like, oh God, I've had enough. We jump out. But, why not really dive deep into those emotions? Take a breath and go, okay, I'm really pissed off right now. Or I'm really fearful right now. Well, how does that feel? Where is that coming from? And I'm awarded that fortune by the grace of God that I don't have any distractions in my home. I'm not like a mama who has this kind of disease and she's taking care of a 3 and 4 year old, So I give all glory to the goddess and the gods for all that's been arranged for me. For someone that doesn't have any money or anyone really living with me and caring for me, I feel so cared for.
What advice do you have for people right now who are struggling with your passing, who are struggling with coming to terms with their own passing? What would you tell them right now?
Well, I almost died twice in the hospital in 2019, and most of my stay in 2019 was alone. There were people that came to visit me, but most of my stay was alone. And I came to this realization that in my life, I've been moving so fast, pushing so fast to get to that destination of making the money, writing the lesson plans, directing a play, whatever it was that I was doing, that I didn't spend enough time in my present moment. So the very first thing that I came to was that breath is life, and to concentrate on my breath and quiet my mind. And as soon as I did that, I felt this silent voice within. If you want to call it Mother Isis, if you want to call it Christ, if you want to call it Buddha, the divine light, whatever it is. And it's a very unmistakable feeling. And in that feeling, I started crying, and I started realizing, wow, I've never felt this angry before in my life. I never felt this alone in my life. I've never felt this much fear in my life. And I thought to myself, I made a promise to myself actually that I was going to dive as deep as I possibly could into all my emotions, not just joy and gratitude, but all my emotions. And it's sticky work, but Isis has somehow facilitated different situations like this interview with these questions that totally stretch me and tell me to take the time to really think about, how do I really feel? Or like this gift that Ananda has given me, of music and dance are probably my two favorite ways of communicating, because it was very difficult for me to communicate as a child, and I had dyslexia, so I couldn't read, and I was very shy. But on the stage, on the dance floor, or playing my cello, I felt like I was totally alone in my own element with God. And so I guess my advice for people that are in a place of despair or fear, or just some emotion that they can't really quite, or aren't really ready to tap into, is to know that your body, my body, your body is always working on your behalf. So whatever is happening, it's happening because it's in favor for you. Whether it means pushing this disease out and you heal, or that it pushes this disease out and you no longer need this vessel. Your soul is going to move on. It's either going to move on into radiance and sparkle and shine and just be jazzed for the rest of all eternity, or you're going to move on into whatever is next. But if you don't take the time to appreciate the moments that you have right now, how could you possibly appreciate the time in the next life?
That is such a truth. It's such a powerful truth. I'm just wanting to let it sink in. What is, from this short film that you've done, which is beautiful, what do you want people to take away from it?
Don't be afraid to express how you feel, whether it's in silence, whether it's through your body, your words. Don't be afraid of the messages that your body is telling you. And if it's possible for you to do something even as simple as write them down in a journal every day, or scribble on a piece of paper and paint and make a picture out of the scribbles, or listen to some beautiful music, or read a book, but do something that the motor currents ride on. Our motor currents in our body, they move through our life through, I believe, through Dharma, through whatever it is that we feel rings true for us. For me, most of my life, it's been acting and dance and ceremony. But for someone else, it could be gardening. So I would say that what I would request from the people that watch this is that I'm not dying. I'm alive. You're either alive or you're dead. And it's up to you how you choose to live your life, regardless of whatever challenges you have. I mean, I experienced my daughter dying years ago. I had her prematurely, and I was working up in the backcountry, and I was almost 7 months pregnant, and I gave birth to this baby girl. And I watched her in my hand, and I knew that she wasn't going to make it. And I knew there was no way I was going to go downtown. And it was a whole long, crazy story, but I just sang to her until she died. And yeah, having 5 boys and losing a little girl was kind of tough. But we all have these things that happen in our lives, Justin. It's like I did death doula work, and I also did midwife doula work, and they're both portals. And I think that being a woman that had a cesarean section and then had live births after that cesarean section, when the doctors told me, no, that's not possible, that I educated myself in understanding that just because the doctor says that you can't have a child doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have your own child. Women have been having kids for millenniums,
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for the death experience. I'm not trying to condone people who want to just trust in their doctors and do what their doctors say. But for me, when my doctor says that I have 2 years, fuck you, excuse my language, but I'm not going to have you tell me how long I'm going to be alive for. I mean, it's not about how long I'm alive for. It's about how much I'm going to relish what I'm doing while I'm here. How much I'm going to be able to take my spiritual life and use that as a vehicle and rise above pain and rise above fear and rise above reason. Don't drive yourself crazy with reason. There's no such thing as reason. Reason is the best friend of ego, So that's my long-winded answer.
You just talked about something right now, and I kind of love this concept. You talk about, in this whole interview, you've been talking about your childhood and how how the start got you here. Even when we were talking about our morning prayers, awakening the sun, awakening ourselves. Was there anybody in your life, or were there multiple peoples that kind of were light posts of like, that's how I want to be as a person?
Absolutely. My grandmother is first and foremost. My grandmother, my father's mother and father were very connected to the earth. They were sharecroppers. And my father, he didn't have shoes till he was 8. And they didn't have a floor. They had a dirt floor, but they had the earth and they had the stars. And I can remember, I tell this story a lot, but it's really powerful to me. And that is that my grandmother would take all my cousins and I out. We'd get together at Christmas every year. Everybody would come together. And I had 7 cousins and my sister and I. And my grandma was this big woman, right? Most of my people on my dad's side of the family are really full-bodied women. And she'd take us out into the porch, and we'd pile into the porch, all of us, my dad, my mom, my uncle, my aunt, my grandma, my cousins. And she'd say, let's wait for the Star of David. Let's wait for the Christmas star. Watch the star rise. And then she'd point to Cirrus and she said, this is where your family lives. This is where I'm going when I die. And this is where you will go. And she pointed out the sisters to me. And I've always felt that to be true. And when I was 20, my grandfather once again was working in the fields in Missouri and didn't come home from work. And my grandmother sent my Uncle Marvin out, and my Uncle Marvin found my grandfather trapped underneath a tractor that had backed over the top of him, and he was dying, or he was living, but he was going to die. And Uncle Marvin was going to go and get the ambulance. And my grandpa said, no. He said, I was born in these fields. I'm going to die in these fields. Just sit with me and let's look at our family. And that was the last thing that my grandfather said. So, yeah, my heroes are my grandmothers, my grandfather, Frida Kahlo. She's a big fan of mine. Lady Lorien Vanier, because of how she always would say, do what you say you're going to do. And I think that's what gave her so much potency, besides being empowered by the goddesses. If she said she was going to do something, by God, she did it. And then, of course, Lady Olivia Robertson, who was more than a teacher and a co-founder of our Fellowship of Isis, but she was a dear friend. We went swimming together, for crying out loud. She gave me my name, you know. But her most important teaching beyond these incredible liturgy, this incredible liturgy collection that we have, is her most important teaching is that there's no high or low. We're all the same. We're all here to inspire one another, encourage one another, and help one another along the road. So those are, I think, rounding it off, because I have a humongous list. Those are the top. Yeah.
One of the things I want to start with, and I'm going to ask you now, we talk about love a lot, right? We talk about love, but what love feel for you? What is love?
Well, when I was in the temple, we were taught this word bhava. I don't know if you know about bhava, but bhava is the spiritual essence of love. Bhava is a word that describes the all-encompassing experiences that revolve around love. Bhava is something we can't really experience in a physical body, but love is something very close to that. So I like to say that love is kind of a generic word for those emotions that take our breath away.
I like that definition.
Yeah. You know, Amy Anderson, I think is her name. She said, grief is love with no place to go. You know, so, yeah, I always tell people I hope they can find a nest for their grief. Because, you know, there's so much you can do with it.
There is. Is there anything that you want to share right now? Any thoughts that you want to tell people?
Well, I hope I don't bum you out and not die quick enough.
Mana, the longer you're around, the better, okay? Like, I'm not.
Well, people say to me, oh my God, you look so great. You look so great. You sound so great. Your color is so great. And I'll tell you, the reason is because I do my spiritual practice every day, 3 times a day. And if, you know, I look at the photos of my images and I am covered in tumors all over my liver, all over my intestines, my colon, my ileocecal valve, my bladder, my kidneys, my pancreas. I'm covered. I'm stage 4. But for some reason, you know, whatever it is that clicks for you, that keeps you connected to loving yourself, do that. Yeah. And I love you guys. I am so grateful for the Temple of Isis and Lady Lorien and Paul taking me in and giving me a second home. I went pretty much straight from the temple to living on a native Warm Springs Indian reservation, to doing traditional work and studying with traditional elders. And then I came straight to the Temple of Isis, which was in 1989. Late 1989, Paul and Lorien were going to Egypt and they needed someone. And I was like, wow, this is all of it rolled up into one and even better. And so I just think that if people kind of get a twitch in their heart, you know, when they think of me, just maybe use that to go do some service. That would make me really happy.
That is beautiful. Thank you, sweetie. I'm going to go over to Anandha right now.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Just in hearing all of that, I don't even want to do an interview. I just want to listen.
We're both crying. I'm literally like, yeah, it's really hard because Mana is such a beautiful soul. And it's very hard to, having known Mana most of my life right now, to see her go through this. You know, she's always been this beautiful vessel of love and service and just being there for people. And it's really hard for me to be present with this.
What is so particularly inspiring is to know that, like you said, who has inspired you right now. Mana is the one inspiring me, because you know we're walking this life together in a path that is got an end to it. And in our culture, we don't talk about the end, and we don't talk about grief, and we don't talk about sorrow. We like package that up in this place that gets hidden. And Mana is allowing us to learn, to experience, to grow, to mature into the truth, which is that this is all part of the beauty of life. It shines the light on the beauty of life. To be able to grieve, to be able to sing a song for Maya, to be able to, for Mana, to be able to be present in the moment in our living. It's very inspiring, Mana. Thank you.
We're little stars bouncing light off of one another, my dear.
Yeah. Yeah, and it gives us the opportunity. I mean, your courage and your transparency gives us the opportunity to expand that light.
Yeah, it does. And Mana is that light, and we reflect our lights to each other, you know? We really are, when we get down to even basic science, we are literally stardust given form, you know? That's a very powerful thing to remember.
Yeah.
Anandha, what really got you to make this film? What was the impetus? And I said, we're going to do this now. We're going to, because I know how you work. You really do manifest things that you want. So what was, as Mana would say, what was the niggling in your soul?
It was the perfect storm, actually. I had an opportunity to do a film for this festival that it will premiere in, and it's called Circling Sorrows. And so I was trying to figure out what film. And Mana at the same time received another diagnosis, and that you sent me this message, Mana, that said, "This is the end." And I read those words, and it was like, okay, she's starting this chapter where she's going to write the final chapter. And the fact that you were willing to say that out loud, and the courage that it takes to say, "This is the end," I knew that I wanted to honor Mana with a legacy project. And I was trying to think of a legacy project. And then I realized, I have this film that I am going to create. So why not use that film as an opportunity for Mana to be present even after she transitions, even after you decide that this body is no longer of service to you, then you'll still have this legacy project to still help people in their own transitions. And I think this interview, packaged with that film so that they both go together, will help so many people when they face their own last chapter.
What is the message you want people to get out of the film when they're watching this? What do you want the audience to take away from it?
You know, grief often seems like it's something that's wrong or bad, and we don't want it and we push it away. But grief is a very necessary part of life. If you're a loving person, you can't avoid grief. And there is a beauty in grief. And there is a love. I mean, that's all grief is love that needs a way to be expressed. And so, of course, there's all these emotions wound up inside of grief. And I hope that this film gives people permission to feel them.
Thank you, Ananda. You talked about love already, so I'm going to ask you, what is the essence of love to you? What does it taste? What does it feel like for you?
In the 42 Ideals, the last card, I can't remember the exact words for it. Wait, I have it right here. I am the all, or you remember it? Say it.
I embrace the all.
I embrace the all. Yes, I embrace the all. The all. I really believe the all is the place where love exists. The all. That every part of who we are, every part of the universe, consciousness itself is love manifest. And that the things that we define as love, like it's there's so many layers of it, but in truth, there's love in anger, there's love in joy, there's love in sorrow, there's love in celebration. It's permeating everything if we can but recognize that.
That is so true and so powerful. What advice do you want to give to people who are caught up in grief, who are caught up in this moment? Because you yourself have experienced a lot of grief right now and a lot of transitions.
Yeah, indeed. When experiencing grief, the most important gift that you can give yourself is time. To slow down. To allow that grief to be present. Because it's not going to go away. It doesn't just disappear. It needs its own expression. It's funny because I've noticed there's a picture right behind me that I hadn't noticed is there before in the videos. It's my brother. And there's a quote there from Shakespeare, and I can't say it exactly, but it's something like, give grief expression, because when grief is not expressed, it whispers the heart to break. And, our heart is breaking when we're grieving, but it's breaking in a good way, the way that allows the light to shine through, the way that allows us to know that we're real, we're alive, we're filled with love, and it hurts. And that pain is not bad. It just is. And once we can suffer and feel the love in the suffering, there's a great peace to being alive. There's a great sense of all.
Yeah, Rumi says, the wound is where the light enters. And it really is, as personally speaking about grief, that really is in those moments where I'm overwhelmed. That's when I feel the best connected. I know that that's such a weird oxymoron thing, but when I am the most overwhelmed by grief, by joy, or whatever it is, that's when I feel the most connected. Is in that. Ananda, thank you for the service. Thank you for being the vessel for this. I will edit this and put this together, but thank you both for being here. Thank you for also being here, love. Thank you for.
I just can't thank Ananda enough. I say it all the time on the internet, but I don't really cry on demand. I have to cry because I just feel like you gave me such a gift, because, growing up with the childhood that I had, I was always very shy, and I wasn't very communicative, but dance was like a secret friend to me. And I danced for many, many years until I started getting sick. And to be able to have this completion of saying farewell through the movements in my body, and knowing you as a god sister who understands that and takes those prayers that I laid down and blends them with this beautiful artistry that you have of touching souls through your editing and your filming, not only your dance, but you've just got such a sacred vision, and I'm just so grateful. And I I just feel so connected, and I love you so dearly, Anandha. And Justin, thank you for having this time to bring us together like this so that we can actually kind of emote how important this project is. So,
Mhm. Yes.
Well, thank you both, my dears. I
Yeah.
give you endless love and be blessed with life and many lives that we lead.
Hotep.
What's up?